Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a little studio session. I have been really busy with a couple house projects. I just finished installing our new kitchen floors, and then we had a visitor. So I've been a little bit kind of scattered when it comes to making content for YouTube. I've been filming a lot of little bits and pieces of studies lately, but we've had quite a lot of storms lately, so I haven't really made it out for any plein air painting of note. So I thought we would just do a chatty little sketch session this week. I've been studying moving water a lot lately. I've posted a couple shorts about it and photos over on Instagram. So for this session, I wanted to do two things. First, I wanted to try a few different color palettes, color combinations, and see which one catches my eye more at the end. And then the other thing is practicing getting a balance of soft edges and hard edges. I'm using gouache and I'll be using it both diluted as well as layering up thicker paint. This is my favorite way of using gouache. I very rarely just do solid, thick layers anymore. I have kind of done that a little bit in the past here and there, but in my mind, the beautiful thing about gouache is its versatility. It's the way you can dilute it and let it flow and bleed and build up the opacity, and I love stretching it to its limits. I wanted to mention that I am teaching at Gouache Live next week. I'm actually the first presenter, which is kind of cool. And I'll be doing a plein air painting, talking you through all of my steps. If you're interested in that, there's a link in the description and you can get a 10% discount with my code. And there are going to be so many incredible artists teaching at this event. It's 2 days online. Go check out the details, and I really hope to see you there. If you do show up in the chat, please say hi and maybe let me know you're here from YouTube or wherever. But yeah, it'll be really fun. So as you can see, I'm doing more than one study. I've been doing this thing a lot where I divide a big piece of paper into 4 to 10 squares and give myself the opportunity to play with lots of different layouts or compositions or different color palettes of the same exact scene. In this case, I am painting the exact same composition 4 times, but with different colors. And like I said, I want to kind of feel out what colors or combinations are attracting me the most in the end. During the painting process, I am still being very spontaneous, and I didn't actually sit down with a set color palette for each square. I did it completely in the moment. So, for instance, I would start the painting, and whatever colors jumped out at me on the palette, I would put them on the paper, and then that's the color palette I would run with in that square. I know this sounds a little strange, but it's just one way that I like to have fun. And like, even though I am controlling the situation and what I'm studying, I am leaving room for that improvisation and the spontaneity that I love so much. I find this is especially helpful for studying a subject that's moving, like water or clouds. And if I don't practice this many, many times, I tend to make things look a little stiff or just unnatural. If you're just beginning your journey, I think it's helpful to start slow. Maybe start with a monochrome study so that you don't have to worry at all about color and you can focus solely on your brush strokes, because that's one thing that takes a lot of getting used to. And the consistency of the paint, because you don't know how much water to use at first. All these technical things that are really important to get better at. And then you can tackle the more conceptual side of it and the color theory. By the end of this session, I really surprised myself with which color combinations I liked the most. I thought I was going to be really into these warm orangey yellows, lots of warm tones basically. And in the end, I'll show you the one I like the most. But it just reminds me that no matter how much thinking I do ahead of time, how much planning ahead I do, I will often surprise myself. And this is another reason why it's so great to do these thumbnails, is because you can work through these things before you get to the big piece of paper, the final painting. Sometimes I think I know what I want to achieve, and then in the color studies, I find something new to focus on or to emphasize a little bit more. Or, like I said, the colors might surprise me and I lean in a different direction than I thought I would. And it really makes me wonder, like, how much should we be planning ahead of time? Should we be doing lots and lots of sketches and value studies and thumbnails? Or should we just do a couple and then try the bigger painting and see what happens, see what we learn from it, and then do another bigger painting? There's no right answer, obviously. It all depends on what your personal goals as an artist are. And I see a lot of people asking the question of, like, how many studies should I do? How many thumbnails do I need to do? I think people are looking for a lot of very specific guidance. But I think the most important question we should ask ourselves is, what are we trying to achieve? Is it a sense of light? Is it playful colors? Is it texture? Is it, what is the thing that's making us excited to even sit down and paint the scene? It might be the kind of thing that requires tons of study beforehand. And even though nowadays I do plan quite a bit ahead of time before I do a larger painting, I also have times where I just jump kind of quickly into the big painting, into the final study, and I end up loving it. So I'm not really sure how to even answer a question like that. For me personally, it varies. It depends on the situation, I guess. So if you're ever in doubt, I'd say just try the big painting. And if it bombs, then maybe go back to the drawing board, do some studies, do some sketches, and start working through some of those issues. I think one of the most beneficial things I've done for myself to learn is to do master studies. And I've talked about this many times in the past, and I know other artists do as well. And that's because it actually works. Picking a painting by an artist considered a master, or even if it's just someone you absolutely love, and trying to dissect how they did what they did, maybe figure out the order of layers of colors that they used. Why did they put dark blue here and light blue there? Warm versus cool tones. There's so many things that you can focus on during a master study. Even doing the same one over and over again can teach you so much. And while I don't do as many as I used to, I still feel that every single time I do, it's very humbling and it's a huge learning experience. One of the things I worry about when it comes to planning for my paintings is that I'm going to overthink it. I'm going to overdo the planning and lose out on the beautiful surprises that happen during the process. I think that's because most of my training has come from painting outside on location, and that is always just a show up and respond to the moment thing. So I'm very used to that feeling. So when it comes to sitting in the studio, thinking through lots of compositions and color options and just all of the planning stages, it feels a little more foreign or disconnected from the thing about painting that brings me the most joy, which is the sense of discovery. I am super driven by curiosity. So I always have that in the background, at least. That's usually what's pushing me forward, like seeing what happens when I do this or put these colors together. That's a huge driving force for me. But I'm just much more used to or comfortable with going into a painting session without a super strong vision of what I'm going to paint in the end. So often I will sit down and look at my scene in front of me outside and think, okay, this is what it could be, but it always transforms in the process. That doesn't mean that when I'm painting in the studio, I can't do that either. So I think I'm at this phase in my career, in my studies, where I'm bridging those two types of approaches. I'm trying to get more familiar with the planning stages and making it a normal part of my process so it doesn't feel so strange. And it is helping that I'm doing this every single month with my patrons as well. We do like a breakdown of the reference, the line drawing, the composition thoughts about like how we can change things and make it better or what we want to leave out, and the value studies, the color studies, all the things. And that is like a monthly thing that I look forward to. And then in between those times, I'm doing a lot of my own stuff, and a lot of that is very experimental. So I'm really curious to know like what the majority of you are thinking about this. Do you approach your art with a more studious mindset, or do you just do it, wing it, have fun with it, see what happens all the time? And maybe if you let me know, like, are you an artist in training? Are you someone who's pursuing this professionally, or like trying to be more serious, get really good? How do you approach that, and what steps do you take to hopefully get to your goals? I love reading through everyone's comments on my videos because there's such a wonderful variety of all walks of life, all disciplines, all different levels of painting or art. And it just feels like I get a super wide range of responses and insights into different processes. So, and I know I'm not the only one who reads the comments. A lot of you will like comment on each other as well, which is really cool. But overall, I just really enjoy that because it's one of the few ways I can get a broad response from my audience. I think you all here on YouTube are one of my more active audiences, besides over on my Patreon. I do get comments on my Instagram, but it's usually just like a response, like if someone likes it or not. Whereas here on YouTube, I think people put a little more thought into their comments or like respond more deeply, which is so amazing. So, anyways, sorry, getting off in a little tangent there. I would really be interested to hear like how many of you actually approach your art in a very studious way. I totally understand that there's lots of people watching that are very much hobbyists who do this just for fun because it's therapeutic or whatever the reason. So I'm not expecting everyone to be, telling me about their strategies and all that, but I do find it's interesting. And I know that most of us want to improve, and maybe we just have to approach our studies in pieces between busy life events and all the things that we have going on in life. So I know that reading the comments is another great way to get some tips and insights from people that might be similar in a similar situation that you're in. Okay, I'm wondering if you all can guess which of these was my favorite in the end. I think some of you think you'll know. I'm going to put it on screen in 3, 2, 1. It was actually a little hard to choose in the end. When I look up close at each of these, there's little pieces I love about each one. And I'm not 100% sure I'm going to use the one I love the most as my guide for my bigger painting. I want to do an 8 by 10 painting of this scene. And so, yeah, I think the composition is nice. I like having the variety of the waterfall, the reflections, the moving water over the clear water where you can see the rocks below. I like all of that, but I'm still not completely set on the color palette yet. I think I may draw inspiration from a couple of these in terms of color placement, but this one that's my favorite is, I think, overall really nicely balanced. And then I'm sure in the end I'll splash a few surprise colors in there somewhere. Okay, I think I'm going to head out now. I really appreciate you being here and hanging out with me. I'll leave some links in the description for Gouache Live and anything else I can think of. Thank you all again, and I'll see you next time. All right, take care, everyone. Bye bye.